So hello, fellow innovators. This is Patrick Emmons.
And this is Shelley Nelson.
Welcome to the Innovation and the Digital Enterprise Podcast, where we interview successful visionaries and leaders, giving you an insight into how they drive and support innovation within their organizations. We're very excited to have Nicolas Chaillan join us today. Nicolas serves as the Chief Software Officer for the United States Air Force. Nicolas is responsible for enabling Air Force programs in the transition to Agile and DevSecOps to establish force-wide capabilities and best practices, including continuous authority to operate processes and faster streamlined technology adoption. Prior to his current position, Nicolas was the Special Advisor for Cloud Security and DevSecOps at the Department of Defense and Special Advisor for Cybersecurity and Chief Architect for Cyber.gov at the Department of Homeland Security. In addition to his public service, Mr. Chaillan is a technology entrepreneur, cyber expert, and inventor. Nicolas is recognized as one of France's youngest entrepreneurs after founding WorldAct. At 15 years of age, he has founded 12 companies and has created and sold over 180 innovative software products to 45 Fortune 500 companies. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Nicolas, if you don't mind, can you share with our audience a little bit more about your role, specifically as Chief Software Officer at the Air Force?
Yeah, of course. I'm actually the first Chief Software Officer in the government. That's interesting. I wasn't a big fan of the title at first because, it's not something used on the commercial side. And we're trying to bring the best commercial side practices across DOD and try to embrace the modern agile culture, but yet they came up with a new cool title. I start to like it because first I see the value of the role, and I'm going to try to explain it, but also because we start seeing adoption on the commercial side with companies starting to look for Chief Software Officer. And I guess the big piece of the role is to help with the adoption of Agile DevSecOps and bring enterprise services to facilitate the adoption and remove impediments in the ability to continuously produce software and moving at the pace of relevance and adopting clouds and things like that. And really, what's interesting there is that the software piece, of course, is part of every system out there, and really can't do much today in terms of innovation without touching software stuff. At the same time, if I were still on the commercial side investing in companies, I would probably look first to decide whether or not a company is going to succeed at their DevSecOps stack to see, hey, are they able to move fast and compete, right, with their competitors out there that are able to release software multiple times a day and get feedback loops shorter and shorter by their end user to see whether or not they're bringing value to their customers. And so, DevSecOps is a prime enabler, and I don't think any business can be successful without having a strong DevSecOps adoption. And that's really what I'm here to do in the government, is to bring these DevSecOps services and enterprise capabilities to the DOD programs and the large weapon systems, business systems, space systems at any classification level, including jets, bombers, and nuclear systems as well. So that's exciting stuff.
It is pretty exciting stuff. You've got a couple of really big initiatives, the Cloud One and the Platform One effort that you're going through. Do you want to talk about that and how that is, how you're kind of leading the way with the big picture moves?
Yeah. Well, I think when you realize the scale of DOD, obviously we're the largest organization on the planet, and to be able to move fast, you need to bring enterprise services. And the first thing we've done is we created Cloud One and Platform One. Cloud One is the Cloud Office, which connects us to both Amazon and Azure and classified clouds. And then Platform One is the DevSecOps team that can be on top of Cloud One or on top of a jet, a bomber, anything, edge use cases, any kind of system ready, and bring the DevSecOps capability on top of whatever system we need to run. And Platform One really is using Kubernetes and containers to avoid getting locked into a cloud provider, locked into a single company. So we have options. We're modular, we're agile, and it brings the baked-in cybersecurity into the process. So it's not just static and dynamic analysis, basic stuff. It's really more advanced, zero trust, continuous monitoring, and behavioral detection in runtime as well. That's the sec piece of DevSecOps, and we call it DevSecOps because cyber is baked in in the center of the process. Not sec DevOps. It's never first. It's never last. It's baked in.
One of the things that you touched on was moving to multiple daily releases, right? And I think one of the things you mentioned before that I've heard that you've spoken about is the Department of Defense was a waterfall environment, right? A lot of the vendors that they use, all of the resources, and that they had a software delivery of every 3 to 10 years, 3 to 5 years. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean that's a titanic shift.
It is a big shift, and we can now release up to 20 to 40 times a day.
Wow.
Yeah, that's and we saved in 1 year with 37 programs, and we're now at 60 programs. But back last year, when we studied the time savings, we saved 100 year of time by moving
Wow.
to DevSecOps. So just with 37 programs, so you can imagine how that compounds with 60 and now more time. We saved on average 12 to 18 months per program per 5 year of time just on continuous ATO, which is the process to continuously accredit software multiple times a day instead of once every 3 to 5 years. And then we save another 6 to 12 months on average because of the increased feedback loop between the end users and the program office and development team, so we can build capabilities that actually make sense. You don't spend 3 years building something that at the end of the 3 year you realize, wait, I didn't even need this stuff, or I needed something different, and you did not listen to your actual end users. And by being able to fill things rapidly, we can get that feedback loop faster. But also, when it comes to cyber issues and threats, 0 days can pop up left and right in a matter of minutes. You want to have that timeliness component with you to update software bits in minutes across classification networks, so you have no drift between environments, and your highly classified environments are the same and are always updated centrally without having to manually go and patch software.
That's awesome. You use the term end users as if somebody calling an Uber,
Ah,
right?
we call it a wolf fighter here, but when we're not talking in the DoD setting, I like to give it a little bit of a fluffy name, end user, right? But
Right.
at the end of
Right.
the day, we have two customers, right? We have the taxpayers, and we need to do right by them and make sure we're not wasting taxpayer money. And the way I think of it is very much when I had my companies, as you said during the introduction, I was funding a lot of different things with my own money, and you don't want to waste it. And I think of the taxpayer money as my own, so I don't want to waste it either. And we saved quite a lot of money, billions of dollars since I started in the last 2 years. But the other side, of course, is the war fighter, right? We need to bring capabilities that make sense. And look, cost saving is great, but we're not just here to save money. We're here to deliver better, faster capabilities to compete and be leading and not following. A lot of people in DoD start to say, "Oh, we're so far behind. It's okay if we're fast followers." I despise that thought. One, we have more money than any startup company combined. There's no reason, no practical reason why we cannot be leading like the government used to lead, back in the day with a ton of innovations, particularly when you look at NASA and things like that, and GPS and a lot of technology that came from the government, right? Now the issue is the pace, right? The IT pace is so insane. We don't have 10 years to figure things out, right? The technology we used on platform one is barely 2 years old, right? And so the key to success is going to be continuous learning. A lot of companies are not spending enough time or giving time back to their people to learn. And I can tell you, we give an hour a day to our people at Platform One to go and check out our self-learning hub, so they can continuously learn and keep up with what's going on the commercial side.
Nicholas, I'm just curious, when you hire for your team, do you look for entrepreneurs? What are the attributes that you typically recruit for?
Yeah, so we obviously have also a lot of airmen and existing civilian and military people, and that's great, right? We want to bring them with us, and we want to scale. We also want to bring the large defense industrial base companies with us because look, they have the scale we don't have, right? The software in DoD is not built by airmen. It is mostly built by the big primes and their subs, and we need to bring them with us. Where we're not going to succeed by having pockets or starting to say stuff like we're going to replace that talent and these cleared personnel. One, to get a clearance takes way too long, and by definition will limit your talent pool day one, right? Because we need clearances, and you're not going to wait 18 months for someone to get a clearance coming from the commercial side, right? So that's a number one problem. Number two, I don't believe that we need specific set of people. Anyone can learn this stuff, right? It's just a matter of trying and be willing. I can tell you the biggest challenge in IT will be that we're moving from a model that used to be updated every 5 to 10 years, where now a successful IT expert will be only successful if he's capable of continuously learn as a self-learning thing by himself or herself, compared to having to go to classrooms, every 2 years or once a year, or whatever they were doing in the past. They just can't keep up, right? So the trainer, and then classrooms model are just completely obsolete. The stuff they teach today in universities and all over the place. And I'm not just saying that because I don't have a degree. I don't have a degree, but I'm saying it because it's true, and I see it every day that they just can't keep up, right? And you spend a lot of money and you end up living by having learned a lot of things that are already obsolete by the time you come out. That being said, you do learn, the ability to learn. If we were spending more time in teaching people how to self-learn, that would be a massive win, because that's what they're going to have to do for the next 40, 60, 50 years of their career. It is not, hey, we're going to teach you a set of things that you're going to be able to use for the next 30 years. That's a myth in IT, right?
It's an interesting topic when it comes to talent pools, right? And I've had great success with people who are, do not have college degrees in computer science, or, as you said, college degrees at all. And with my own kids, I wonder, is there value there, right? Like, I wonder with the idea of like going to some more of a trade school approach of like, because to your point, right? Like 4 years of learning, whatever you started with freshman year, probably outdated by the time you get to senior year, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so how are you going to apply that learning quicker and start learning on the job? And both Shelly and I participate in a group that helps with transitioning, career military.
yeah,
And one of the concepts that they've taught me in my interactions is that, you learn while fighting, right? So, and I think that's the concept for the future of, to your point, of like spending an hour a day, spending a couple hours a week, that continual learning circle. I find it very interesting. And that's been successful for you
yeah.
with getting folks to spend time on that.
Yeah, but there are a couple of things that you need to bring to the table to enable it, right? One, you need to give them the time. And again, we give an hour a day, but I can tell you, not most of the people cannot take it because of workloads. So we try, but it's not always happening. That's a big problem. Two is we need to bring unbiased content, where we partner with the Linux Foundation, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and O'Reilly, the books, to bring a self-learning hub that has unlimited access to all IT related content. I mean, you're talking anywhere from DevSecOps to microservices to data science. I mean, you name it, right? With a cloud sandbox, so they can put it to good use, so they're not learning in a vacuum. Right? You need to try things out and play with stuff, right? So you want to have that cloud sandbox where you can practice and learn by doing. And then you need to tie this back to the work they do every day. If they're doing 50 years old obsolete stuff, by definition they're going to learn stuff, they're going to get frustrated and leave and go to a company where they can put those new skills to good use. So it's a risk the company is taking by continuously educating their people. If you don't use those new skills and you get them stale and stuck in time, they're going to leave and go elsewhere. But it is up to the company to also make sure they give the opportunity to apply the technology they're learning, not just to, and you don't want to cave in, for every little thing they're learning and start, them to play with stuff every day, right? The goal is not to continuously have a lab where you learn, you're playing with stuff. You need to really decide what kind of investments the company wants to make in terms of innovation and implementing some of these new capabilities in production for real, like we did with Kubernetes and containers in DOD, right? We're mandating it, DOD wide for platform one and stuff like that. So, but if you don't do that, right, not only you're going to get stale, you're going to get behind, and then you can't keep up. And honestly, how do you compete with a company that's able to release 10,000 times a day versus one that's releasing once a day or once a month? You just have no chance, right? It's just like, that's why I was telling you about the investment. For me, if I had to pick whether or not I'm going to invest in a company, my first two pieces I'm going to look at is not their product, not what they're building, not the market. It's going to be, do you have a strong DevSecOps mature team, and do you have a continuous learning ability to train your people so they don't get stale and behind? And do you treat your people as assets? And that's your asset. That's not your product. That's not your IP. That's your people.
I think that's a very interesting. You play in two very different worlds, right? As an investor, and then working with the DOD and leading their charge.
Yes.
Right. Where I think a lot of people would have the perspective that the military doesn't view their resources as assets. My experience, that's not true. Is that one? I'm sure you're going to say yes. The Air Force and the military views their people as assets, but I guess what are they? How do they do that? How does that manifest itself inside the Air Force or other branches of the military?
Look, of course, there's always room for improvement, right? We're not saying we're perfect, but the fact is, number one priority for us is people, right? Both in safety and ability to learn and grow, and there's a great path for learning and growing in a role and moving into different roles in the DoD. That's always very exciting for both civilians and military people, right? At the same time, it doesn't mean we can do better, right? My fear is a lot of times we thought of learning as an afterthought, and we were creating DoD specific content training that's so far behind that it's ridiculous, right? And so we need to just start embracing commercial training, particularly when it comes to IT. We need to stop thinking DoD is special. The mission might be special, the software should not be, right? And the technology we use, open architecture, and making better use of open source technologies, and all these kind of principles that companies like SpaceX embrace, and that's why they're able to move so fast, because they didn't create custom space nonsense that only applies to them, where they reduce the contractor pool and the team that can come and help, and they reduce the access to new technology that can come out because it's not going to integrate or work well within that ecosystem. By having a more open architecture like we're moving now, and moving away from DoD specific nonsense, we end up really opening the access to more startups, more talent, more people that can come and really make a difference. And really, you end up having that opportunity where those people will be able to take those skills on the commercial side, like you said, and transition once it's time to go and do commercial things. The very interesting thing is, the turnover in commercial companies is 2-3 years, right? People like Google or Microsoft, whatever, they move around a lot, right? Some stay for 20 years, but that's very rare, right? There's a big number of people moving around, and we don't see that on the DoD, right? Because it's very tough to get in, get a clearance, and then go somewhere else and lose it or whatever. We need to do better with that too, right? It makes a lot of sense to have people go spend 3 years at companies like Microsoft or Amazon or whatever, and then come back in DoD and then go back another 3 years, right? We need to do much better out there. So there's a lot to improve. We have a whole engagement with Congress on software career ladder, where you have progress of title and pay, right? Where it's not seen as a dead hand to manage people. And when it's time to get a raise, you have to move to a managerial role, and you don't get to code anymore. That's not what you do on the commercial side, right? There's plenty of people that manage people and still get their hands dirty, as I like to say.
Yeah, it's the lifetime question. And it's been a while since I've seen the latest statistics, but I'd say about like 5-6 years ago, Google was 12 to 14 months.
Yeah, it's near the point where it's too short too, right? I don't know how much you can really do unless you're just a developer just typing code. But even that, right? There is a minimum time where it really doesn't make sense to go in a company and stay less than, I would say, 2 years. But so you want to at least enable that flow of people, right? Right now we're losing them and we don't get them back, right? Or they come back when they made enough money to take a big pay cut. That shouldn't be the case, right? We should be able to align with pay scale of the commercial side in a more normal fashion, without taking drastic pay cuts, and sustain them. It's not shouldn't be just bonuses, signing bonuses. Well, okay, they're going to stay 1 year, and then what's going to happen, right? They're going to take a 90% pay cut the second year. So we need to do much better, and start treating particularly software related, data science related, cyber related talent as first class citizen of the department. And I can tell you, right, the next battles will be won or lost because of these people.
So you see that it's a strategic initiative. It's a must do for us to compete, not just from like building software, but competing as the war fighters, and the battles of the future are going to be, it's a critical element.
Yeah, because look at the pace of innovation, right? Hardware innovation is always going to be important, and you're going to have new weapons and new things like that. But the fact is, most of the fast, quick innovation in a matter of years is done on the software side, right? And so you see it all around you, right? Your phone, if you look at your phone, I mean, it might have gotten a little bit smaller and better, but the fact is, in the last 5 years, there wasn't much change on the hardware side compared to the software side of it, right? And that's the same thing for everything, right? And particularly when it comes to cyber offense and defense, those might completely change the way you see the next war, right? And by the way, it's going to be very difficult to know if it was malicious, if it was an accident, if it was who did it, right? Attribution. We always think we know how to do a cyber offense attribution, but I can tell you it's very, very simple to pretend you're someone else and put the blame on someone else. So how much can you really trust in that? And people know how we do this stuff now in terms of attribution. So it's very easy to cheat the system, right? So that is, to me, the biggest risk, right? It's going to be the sneaky way, right, and not the obvious normal attack way, right? So
Nicholas, if we can go back for a moment, as Patrick mentioned earlier on, you were at age of 15, one of the youngest entrepreneurs in France. Just out of curiosity, are you completely self-motivated, or did you have someone in your life who really inspired you?
No, I mean, obviously, my parents always supported me in a sense of enabling me to do this, although they didn't give me any money or anything like that. But I guess they bought my first laptop and devices when I was 7, so I coding very early. So they never stopped me, I guess, from doing it. But they are not entrepreneurs. So my dad is a journalist and my mom was a nurse. So that's yeah. There is no, I guess, nothing. I don't know how I really got into it. It's kind of a little weird. I always like to create stuff, and at some point, it was like worth being a company, right? And then get people, and then grow to 12 countries and hundreds of people in 12 countries. So that was fun.
That's awesome. I'm dying to know, what was your first computer?
I don't even remember. I think it was a Commodore thing. That's the issue when you're young. I guess people that were older that started, using computers very early. They have a better recollection of what they were using. For me, I was 7. I know I had desktop and even I had a laptop, a very Windows 3.1 thing, and but I don't really remember. I think my mom still has the laptop, so I should take a picture of it. Yeah, it's very old
Yeah,
stuff.
for us old timers, right? Our turnover on our machines wasn't like every 18 months, so it's like
Yeah,
I had a PC Junior for a solid 7 or 8 years.
yeah,
But yeah, it's interesting stuff. But one of the questions I think it's really important as people are going through these transformations. One, what you've accomplished already in just 2 years is just inspiring. It's awesome. Uh, what do you think are the critical elements that made that possible? Aside from, obviously you have ambition and you have the ability to get over a lot of challenges. But I think as most of the people who will tune into this show, they're trying to make that change in their organizations. They're trying to be that change agent, and sometimes they're not as successful. And to be totally honest, most, if not all, have not been as successful as you. So, what are some of the things that, as they're like trying to figure out where they're going to have an impact or things that they could do? What are some of the things that you did or was necessary for this to happen?
Well, I have to say, I don't know if it's me. I was lucky, right? First, we already had great people doing a lot of great stuff with Kessa Run and different teams doing a lot of great innovation stuff, and it was ready for prime time when I came on board. It was the stars well aligned. Both the bottom up was excited to do this, and the top down leadership really understood it at the right time. So I wouldn't say just me, although I guess the one advantage I have is having made enough money. I can go in and really break the wall and try to convince everybody that it's the right thing to do. And if they fire me, so be it, right? Not everyone can be in that kind of freedom, right? Because I get it, right? They have to sustain the family, and that it's their career, and I was lucky to make money before I went into the government, and not have to work anymore, right? So if I could take a year off and sleep, or yeah, that would be fun. I love to sleep.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah,
Keep going with that.
right, yeah.
More about the sleep, please.
Yeah. So, but I think that certainly helps because people suddenly see that I'm willing to take what and put my job on the line to do the right thing, and that got me a lot of support from the bottom up, right? And then of course it scales a lot of the leadership, but I think also by leading and showing it's possible, and getting big wins. My first big engagement was to demonstrate we could put Kubernetes on F-16 jet on legacy hardware, and I picked one of the most complex jet and more legacy style team to do it, because we knew that if we could do it there, then you have no excuse not to do it somewhere else, right? So by showing quick wins and demonstrating the value and the return on investment, that's obviously helpful. And then I think really leading the way and breaking the walls one at a time, right? Building enterprise services that and because I design it as almost as a company within the government, where we provide services and the customers all the DOD programs and teams. We bring options. We don't have a one size fits all. We always have options, although you don't want too many options, but you don't want just one, right? So enterprise services that fail becomes very toxic because they're then mandated and people want to use something else, and there's a lot of ego fight. Where if you bring a few options, and yes, some things need to be mandated and some cyber stuff have to be done right, and you need to have maybe a one way of doing that kind of stuff. But the rest, a lot of the tools and DevSecOps tools and capabilities, you can bring options, right? And never getting locked in, abstract yourself from cloud providers and stuff like that. So you have that flexibility of moving around and shopping around, particularly for the taxpayer. We want to do right by the investment and put good money, not after bad money on getting stuff more and more locked into a single company, right? And then I also didn't like some of the ideas that were about, oh, airmen will be the coders, and that's it, right? I believe that we will not be able to succeed without having a very strong defense industrial base adoption of DevSecOps and the big primes, whether you're talking about the Lockheed or Northrop or Raytheon or whoever, right? If they're not in and all in with us, we're not going to succeed. And so I really did my best to reach out to these companies' leadership and build very strong partnerships. And many of these companies are hiring a chief software officer now, which is funny. But that tells you, right, if we have adoption from them and they see the return on investment for them. In fact, we're making them become a product company, right? They used to be a service work for hire company, where you look at multiples of revenue evaluation for these companies, very small, because it's work for hire, right? You can only do what your people can charge per month, per year. We're taking some of the existing IP, turning that into containers, and that, you can imagine, is now really empowering them to make that a product and license it as a license model. So that's pretty game changing. I have yet to see more better way to make money than using your existing IP, containerizing it, and making it as Lego blocks so it can be reused across DoD and sell it as a license or as a consumption-based model. And now you're effectively becoming a product company.
Something you just said earlier, Nicholas, I was smiling because I had a mentor early on who said everybody needs a go to hell fund, right? And really, that just changes your whole mindset because it's not fear based. You can be innovative, you can be strategic, you can make big changes, and just be very entrepreneurial. So I love your mindset, and as a taxpayer, I thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, in fact, if more of the government services was designed to behave and think as a company, I think you will see much better adoption of services and much better services overall. Because if you can't get adoption and you can't you're not getting the right feedback on your products, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, Nick, one last thought. Um, how can we help? How can the listeners help you with your mission? And you've got a really important job, obviously, one that impacts all of us and this great nation we all love. So, how can we help?
So first, we open source back a lot of the DevSecOps stuff we do, and we have a website, software.af.mil, software.airforceaf.mil, where we have all of our content. And then if you go inside the DSOP documents, you're going to find all our publications, source code. And it's a two-way street. The source code is also can be improved by your help. And so any of your listeners that want to contribute back that's very welcome. And then if they have products and capabilities that can be containerized, they can push their container to our container repository, which is a marketplace where they can sell now their capability to the department, and we can put them on the marketplace. And it's a very easy thing to do now. We took it from what used to take a year to be accredited and be on contract to 2 weeks. And so they can be on the marketplace, and they can sell and now have access to what is the largest organization in the world, and make a difference for the United States. So that's a great way for startups and companies that thought, hey, I don't want to waste time on DoD because it moves too slow. But that's not true. We have CBIRS with AppWorks. We can invest in companies and with grants, which doesn't take equity, doesn't impact the cap table of the company. So it's a great way to get funding with really no impact, no negative impact on the company. Often matched up to 3 times by the commercial side our investments. So that's also now becoming a way to demonstrate to VCs that you're getting a lot of traction. So any help to get more capabilities, more commercial companies involved on the Iron Bank, which is the name of our source code repo, container repo, and that's all of that is on software.af.mil, and reach out to us and be part of it.
That's awesome. What's also awesome is like your guys' naming is just fantastic, right? The Iron Bank, Kessel Run. I mean, you just know how to tickle the nerds, don't you?
The best you have to see the Platform One logo with Baby Yoda and the Smokey the Bear. That's probably the best logo on the planet.
Yeah, I have seen the smoky hat on Yoda, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, actually, I don't know if we talked about this. The name of my company, Dragon Spears, is actually named after the MC-130,
Right.
Variant of the AC-130. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's awesome stuff. Nick, thank you so much for joining us and sharing this. And I just can't encourage people to go, check it out, see what they're doing. It's really amazing stuff. And from an investment in yourself. And a lot of times when we talk to people, like, I just want to do things that are meaningful. Well, I think this is exactly the avenue to solve that problem.
Yeah, and we're hiring. So anyone that wants to come and make a difference, and you don't, it's not many companies that can let you do space stuff and jet stuff, and so we do a lot of cool stuff. That's the pay might not always be as good, but the kind of work we do is completely unique. And if you have kids, I didn't have kids when I studied in DoD. Now I have 3 kids 2 years later. It's very crazy. I had twins, so that I went from 1 to 3. That really has a strong impact on why I'm staying, because I really want to make sure that our kids will have a fighting chance, against nations that, have sometimes 5 to 6 times the size of our population, and they can do a lot of things. We're not going to win by volume. We have to win by quality and smarts, right? So we need to make sure they are set for success when they get to begin that kind of work, and not already start 20, 30, 40 years behind.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Call to arms.
Yep.
Get your kids coding and then get them to work for the Air Force, for the DOD. My son wants to be a Marine. He's got that baked into him.
That's good.
He's not going to be the keyboard kid like me.
That's okay. We need both.
Yeah.
We need both.
Yeah. Well, again, like I said, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're super busy, doing this thing called Protecting the Nation, just a little mission there.
Yes. Thank you, Nick.
Of course, anytime.
We also want to thank our listeners. Thank you for tuning in, and we really appreciate everyone taking the time to join us.
And if you'd like to receive new episodes as they're published, you can subscribe by visiting our website at dragonspears.com/podcast, or find us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode was sponsored by Dragon Spears and produced by Dante32.